Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Honest Money podcast. Today, I'm pleased to invite Aman and Richa to this episode. I'm proud to call them my friends and my neighbors, and over the years, we have had some really interesting conversations about money. They've been married for over a decade and are proud parents to two beautiful twin boys. They are both building high pressure careers in consulting and have been living in the US for nearly a decade now. Today's conversation is going to be super unfiltered, very raw, and honestly, I think you're going to really enjoy this about building a life and building a family in another country while managing careers and also parenting. So come, let's dive right into it.
Let's get eased in, but first, maybe we want to talk about you've been married for how long and known each other for how long?
It's actually our anniversary today, and we've been married
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, congratulations.
That's why the morning has been busy with calls. But it's been 12 years since we were married and 22 years dating, because we dated for 10 years before we got married.
Wow.
In a long time. Like we've done our undergrad together, graduation, masters, starting work, like 1-2 years apart from each other. So it's been a while, 15 years now in the workforce almost.
Wow, fantastic. Well, I did not know that. That makes this conversation even more special. So tell me, let's talk about your dating time. So when you guys were in Dehradun, right? You were doing your undergrad together. So when you went out for dates with, I know Dehradun has some cool spot. Like how would you manage money? Did you split the bills or like who would pay? What was the whole conversation about money at that time?
See, what I remember, it's like very back in the past now, but what I remember was there used to be like a fund you would get from the parents, right? He would have some, I would have some. And then for our outings and stuff, it would just become one, like we had to exhaust it combined, right? We would go out, have like movie dates or anything. I remember eating brownies from Barista used to be like the special day thing you would do. All that would be like a common fund. And then he would have... I was in a girls' hostel of the same college, so we had very restricted access to outside food. We won't be allowed after 6. He would have access to external dhabas and all. He could get dinner if he didn't like the mess food. So he would buy food for me and deliver it to the girls' hostel. So I remember it being very like a pooled, like if I'm getting 2,000 per month and he's getting 3,000, whatever, I'm just making these numbers up. I remember considering it like a pool since then because we were spending it together for the most part. Like there was very little that we were not doing together. So.
And is that still what you do now also? Do you like pool in all of your money together and think of it as like one household pool of money?
Not really. See, now what we do is we try to generally split our bigger expenses. So the Chase and Preferred and the American Express, those high value cards, like we have one that we usually use for most of our bigger expenses. And then we have our things like if he does the mortgage, I would do the groceries for the month. Like it's almost just generally equates out, not 50-50, but pretty much for the most part.
But it's not coming from a common pool of...
Yeah, it's not coming from like his accounts are different, my accounts are different. We're just trying to split the expenses a month, generally like 50-50. And then the rest of it is whatever's in the banks being invested.
I don't think so. It's 50-50, but...
like the idea is to keep it similar, right? Between the two.
But then, so do you think of your savings as your own savings, Richa and Aman? Do you think of like your savings investments as your own? Like, what is that mentality? Is that like, this is our money, or is it about this is our spending and this is my money, this is my money?
I think this is where we are a little different. I think of my money as my money. Like initially what was happening, Palak, in full honesty, like I would want to send money to my parents, not that they were asking me, but it was my thing of, I want to give them back for my education or whatever, right? So my money was always like, I want to have my pool that I can do whatever I want to. But I think he looks at it as more like, especially after having kids, his is like, this is our money. At the end of the day, this is like what we're going to give to Neve and Rome. Right. So it's more of his thought process of this is one pool. I still like to keep like, oh, you were supposed to pay kids tuition last month, you didn't, so sell it to me. And he'll be like does it matter? So I sometimes do that. He's a little less minded like that. He would be considerate.
It also depends on her mood. Depending on how aggravated she is with me, it'll be like, okay, transfer the money or no.
Yeah, of course.
But I have this financial independence mindset for some reason. Like, I don't know, it's like a risk averse mentality or whatever. But for me, it's like you should always be fair in terms of how you're splitting it, what you're bringing But I understand at the end of the day, it's one pool. So
Very interesting. And I've seen people do it very differently. So I was very curious about this. So I actually did a lot of research. It's
Yeah.
actually split down the middle. Like 50% of the couples think of it as my money, and 50% people think that it is our pooled in money. So I've seen, even in my own families, I've seen it very equally split. Like some are very clear cut and some are like, "Nahi, theek hai, this is all of our money combined together."
I don't even have full awareness of all the money that he has in his different accounts. When they say pool, like both people are aware, like what is in that pool?
So like me and Kunal, for example, we have, we think of it as just one amount of money. So like my account, his account. So our aim, like specifically for us, was that we would spend one salary and we would save one salary. So our target was one entire salary and paycheck has to be saved. It doesn't matter whose, whether his or mine. He is generally the one who has been doing all of the bills. So essentially, it was sometimes easier to pay from his, or even depends on the credit card we were using. Like that would give more points. But then one paycheck had to be saved. That was kind of how our mentality was. It was not always like that. When we got married, the first week of marriage, he actually got a paper and pen and like a copy and diary, and he started noting it down. I got really mad. I was like, wait, is this why we got married, to maintain accounts between the two of us? So since then, he's not maintained accounts with me. But yeah, no, I mean, I see very, very different perspectives in terms of how do you do expenses. But what about like goals?
Yeah.
So like what happens when you think about like goals together, retirement, children's education? Are you guys aligned on that?
That's pretty much aligned. Yeah. Like, and also like we are not the best examples of thinking about financial planning a whole lot.
Goals, even goals.
Like even goals, right? Like we know generally what we want from, like, in terms of saving for kids, their education account, our retirement, all that. But I think in terms of goals, we are aligned. We know we want the same things, but how we get to it, that's something like we don't talk about that much. Like we have goals, but
you not talk with each other about that, or generally you don't talk to like a planner or say outside the house about it?
No, see, I've had those conversations with you, and in fact, I've learned so much in our just like general chit chat about the fire or like things like that, which I usually wouldn't talk to people. And I don't know, I think it comes from very like rooted in our education. We were never taught to like save or
Talk about it.
manage bank or talk about it. And maybe like we come from an economy that has not flourished that much. I don't know, like we're now learning to have pools of money that you invest. But that is something I feel like, I don't talk to other people. I think boys do that a lot more, talk about money. But in terms of like girls' friendship, we never spoke about money or how you're managing it. I think now I'm seeing more of that.
But I'll tell you, it's not a, maybe male or females ke beech mein there is some, it's a little bit ki males are more focused on finances and financials and whatnot. And hoga. But having said that, for a guy like me, like I really would want to have better planned finances. Again, the reason I'm not, I would love to, again, because of now having family and, getting to a point where you can have generational wealth where, Neve and Rome's future is secure, irrespective of whatever they do, there at least means to, live a good, decent life.
Yeah.
Right?
That's a common goal too. I've come back to your question, like goals are aligned, but in terms of like education and learning about finances, I think we are still trying to do it more actively, more so now after having even Rome. Before that, we were like the consulting couple who had like, we could see our bank accounts growing because there was really no
because the money is coming in, it's stable.
Yeah,
You
Monday
can see
to
it growing
Friday,
every 2
we
weeks.
have like zero expenses. Weekends, we are traveling again on corporate money to another location. So our only expenses was like really travel when you're going. Now we're seeing our expenses grow significantly after having twins. Now we're trying to, like, in the last 3 to 4 years, we are really trying to educate ourselves, investing in not very like complicated investing, but just like simple stuff that we've started
doing. It's not
doing.
sitting in the bank, right? At least it's something,
exactly.
Basically.
Like initially you won't imagine, like the only thing, just last thing on this, growing up, my parents, I remember just hearing about like, what are the fixed deposits in India, right? FDs, I think.
Correct.
I thought that is the only way you invest. Either you buy lands or you do FDs. So that was how I would keep my money, like in CDs here.
No,
like
absolutely.
2%.
Correct. And it's just definitely not enough to like beat inflation, because I'm guessing the two biggest goals for you guys would be, one is your own retirement, and the second is obviously education for both the kids, right? And assuming if we are typical Indian parents, if we want to look at say an Ivy League college, then at their age, which is about say 16 years away, call it 15 years away for them, then that's about $1 million each. So we're talking about $2 million because education inflation, say in the US, plus if say somebody's planning from India, add in the currency depreciation, we're talking about increasing at about 10% every year. And Harvard or any of these Ivy Leagues is about $400,000 right now. So in 15 years time, we're looking at easily about $1 million each. So that is one goal. And then on top of that is your retirement goal. So these are two big buckets, and which is that whole FIRE concept, right? I mean, but your FIRE also, so let's talk about this. So FIRE also will depend on where you are. So right now you're in the US, but if you're in India, then the FIRE number goes down quite a bit. But then it's a life decision. So is that something, I know, Richa, you and I have talked about that, but is that something you guys are aligned on, or it's a controversial topic, so we can avoid that?
No, I think we're kind of aligned on that. And I remember like this conversation with you, and you gave me this like magical calculation of this is our FIRE, but if we earn here and we retire in India, it's lot more attainable and doable. So that is always in the back of the mind. But yeah, like as we've talked about, I think we are kind of aligned in the reasons we want to move back. Just that how do we execute is the question. We don't have any close family here. Like my sibling will never move here with the way her career is, and same thing with Aman's sibling. So like we have far from our family. So that's our main reason. We don't want even room to grow up with no cousins. And obviously we made friends like who are almost family, but it's still like they don't have the cousins. The festivals are different here. I think those are our main reasons. And parents are only aging. Slowly we are hearing like we don't want to come this far to meet you guys. That's the way we spend quality time. So those are our reasons to move. Just that how do we execute, and some of the shortcomings of India that we've experienced firsthand, do we want to deal with that? So those are certain things we are considering, but that's always a parallel objective in mind.
But it's also a very big financial decision. Go ahead, Aman.
Financial for sure, yes.
Well, financial, but again, there's also this political aspect, right? Like what's going on in the country right now. I spoke to Ronak yesterday, and Ronak, like, I mean, how it's impacted someone, right? Like, and again, they're deciding, okay, should we move this year or next year, or should we delay? I mean, it's crazy, right?
It's crazy, I mean, when you zoom out a little bit, some of these political things will always be there, no matter where. It is obviously really bad right now, but I think I also feel, yes, political, cultural, family, but also a very big part is financial. And I mean, is that something that you've thought about? Like, does it kind of make it easier to be in India, especially if you're choosing a tier 2 or a tier 3 kind of a town? Life kind of becomes a lot more affordable, especially once you've worked in the US and then you go back.
Yeah, affordable for sure. I think the main consideration financially there is we can definitely find ways to earn money, but I think the way I want to, just the quality of life I want, I don't think the corporate life is meant for me in India, because I've done that before I moved here. So it's like, how do we find ways of income that is not corporate, which aligns with our skill set? So I think that's like kind of, definitely the expenditure is much less. We have a full family set up there. I don't think we have to like find houses to go live. Like all that is taken care of initially, but again, like building those streams of incomes that are not corporate, I think that goal is very clear for me. I don't think I can move back as a corporate person that I'm working here, do the same thing in India and not have a work-life balance at all.
No, absolutely. And I think that's something that a lot of people do think about, especially as they start touching their, say, mid 40s, early 50s, then you start making a transition that this is not something that I want to do for the rest of my life. I just had a conversation with a very senior leader in insurance yesterday in India, and she's 55. And this is the exact thing that I think I've worked very hard. I'm working too hard. And I think I want to start looking at a different type of work, so something it doesn't have to pay significantly, but it's just a different style of work, yet like I manage my goals. So I feel like this is a very natural progression towards life once you start touching your 40s and then you start thinking about 50s. And
I think both Aman and I have felt this in the last 2-3 years. Like we were so invested in our work and we were like spending definitely more than 10 hours a day. But now it's how can we find a little less money is fine, but how can we find more work-life balance with even because the stress is next level otherwise. Like you work and you're doing all the chores and drop off and pick up plus the work. So that's something we're also considering. Like both of us, like I've changed jobs last year. Aman is considering changing right now to get some more work-life balance. but still being like financially secure.
These discussions are so insightful, right? Even for me, because I feel like everything that we do in life, whether it's a family decision, anything, whether it's a health decision, everything at the end is all linked and it all comes back to money, so it's about less money, more money, expenditure here, like everything is very intrinsically linked to money.
100%.
But do you guys, okay, so this is a controversial question. Do you guys ever fight about money? Has there been any fights that you remember that you've argued about, or you don't agree or vehemently oppose each other on something related to money?
I think the only thing I can think about is like some of the careless buying on both our parts. That's something we may have argued about.
When?
Like this is not.
My answer would have been never, but when?
This is the only, like I'm thinking hard. We haven't really fought about money, but I think that's the only thing. Like he would buy stuff for kids that I would be like, I don't think this is necessary, or I would spend on.
But that's like Palak, like $15-20 worth of stuff.
Not 15, whatever. Like it always adds up, right? Like when you're continuously doing that, I think that's the only thing. We don't.
Yeah,
really
it's
have
not. It's not.
It's the benefit of sort of having like a separate pool. The fights are much less on the money front, as long as like
It's
you're
not,
doing your own thing.
So it's not about money. It's about stuff that has been bought. Are you buying toys? It's of no use. Things like that. Not money. Never about money.
But are you both the same level of spenders, so to say, at the same level of savers, or do you think one person is more of a spender than the other?
I'm definitely more of a spender, but again, so that's why I was saying like those are the kind of things that we disagree on a little bit. Like I would, so just example, last 3 years since the kids are born, my thing is like buying clothes for them, and I religiously like want to get good clothes for them, and he would be like, this is not necessary. And then he was traveling. He was traveling for work, so every trip he would come back. He had a thing like, because he's missing 3 or 4 days with the kids, he would come back with a gift, so a book or sometime toys. And my thing was like, this is turning them into materialistic people. Like they're not expecting dad to come back; they're expecting a gift to be handed over to
them. It's a philosophy of it. It's not an act of spending. It's that consumeristic feeling, perhaps.
Yeah, but we all have our reasons behind it. Those are the like minor things we argue about. Yeah.
Very interesting. Yeah. Was there anything that you discovered about Aman, Richa, that you did not know about?
Yeah, I recently discovered like he was helping fund his brother's business that I wasn't aware of. A little, like whatever that money was, and then again like no fights about it. This always helps with like your pool and my pool, right? Like it's your pool if you want to help fund your brother's business and you believe in it, for sure, go ahead. But I wasn't explicitly aware of that. That's the only thing that comes to mind.
And Aman, anything that you found out recently or even earlier about Richa that came as a bit of a surprise?
From a finance perspective, right? Finances.
Yes, finance perspective.
No, nothing. I don't think so. I mean, again, like it's the things we've talked about, right? She's always been the spender, but I've never had or said anything about it, right? It's again.
But have you found out something? That's the question.
No.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty transparent. I think for me, it's like very like my pool is my pool. I do whatever, but I will always like.
I mean, she mentioned about, right? She's also, I mean, of course, all of us send money back home.
Yeah.
Either it's to parents, it's to your brother or sister, and Richard's done that.
The initial 5 years of my.
Yeah.
And
but
did that ever feel like you guys should have talked about it before? Did it ever evoke that feeling?
मेरे लिए तो नहीं, not for me. And again, because I think now with Richa saying is because again we have our individual pools.
That's why it doesn't matter as much. Yeah.
Even this, like, it wasn't bothersome. I totally understand you. Who else is going to fund your brother if it's not you? It was just that I found out. I didn't know that he was doing it. We never talked about it.
Interesting.
I don't think it has ever bothered us.
I think that's also again something which is very common. I think this whole thing about supporting friends and family without talking to the spouse is definitely one of the common bones of contention that I've seen and heard about very regularly, including between me and Kunal. We tend to generally talk to each other because of, I think it's that very interesting thing that separate pools of money versus a combined pool of money.
Yeah, because if you are combined. I had a friend once who was like unemployed recently for almost a year, and then he was kind of struggling. He was asking all his good friends for money, and I gave him money, but I kind of mentioned it to him like, this much I've given him, whatever. But it's never asking, like, should I or not? It's done, and then I'll just mention it to him that I've done that.
Interesting. Yeah, so that's good. So tell me, I know we have spoken for a while, and this is really interesting. So tell me, say, if you had to give an advice for money to Neve and Rome when they were going to find, say, couples, when they were going to find their partners, what would that kind of be? Like, what advice would you give them?
What advice would you give Neve and Rome?
Financially?
Financially. Something that you wish somebody had told you. Maybe as individually,
like learning
as
how
kids,
to,
and then as couples, when they are finding their own partner.
As kids and then as couple, when
both, as individuals, once you start understanding money.
As kids, again, now because I've started again learning more about this stuff, Palak, and like rather than getting literate on other stuff, I would have them focus on financial literacy.
I want
and they're very young.
Manage their money as well, right? I grow like very little. Like I've been hearing these podcasts and all, like home kids schools are focusing so much more on these kind of stuff than the extracurriculars. Like their parents are giving them whatever, $50, $100, and they have to really manage it. If they have to buy a toy or whatever, like it's their pool. So I think they're learning that skill on very early. Like we never had that, except I remember having given a 50 rupees or 100 rupees on a fate. I don't know if you called it fate, like fairs that school would have. And then I used to feel so empowered that day with coupons in my hand and say like, what do I want to spend on, what I don't want to spend. I think that's the only education, but I want to do that definitely more with Neve and Rome. So they have that, they're learning that, like that's kind of an advice to them. Learn their financial literacy, like a little bit more.
And it'll help them be successful, right? Not be like us.
Yeah. So we've started that with Zasha quite a bit. So we talk to her about money very regularly. We talk to her about investments. We've told her about the stock market. So yesterday she was asking me, Mama, what's an investment bank? Like that might be a topic we have to talk about after a few months. That's a little hard to explain. But we talk about it quite a bit. I don't think there's a right age to start talking about money. I think it's just normalizing that conversation, which we've started doing already quite a bit. But they say normally around 8 is a great time where they can start understanding even more concepts more strongly. I mean, because of both my background and obviously Kunal's background, we've been talking to Zasha for like the last at least 2-3 years, very fully and regularly.
This instant gratification type world we're living in right now, I think it's very important for them to understand what it costs, what you're paying for it, and like what is really needed, what is just for seconds happiness, right? So all that we try to like say to them whatever they understand at the moment.
But this is very helpful. So I'll let you guys go. But thank you guys for talking to me. And obviously our conversation continues after this call also. But
continues, and we always learn so much from you. So that's
happy to help. Yes. And if you have anything, obviously, you can talk to us. But then do tell family and friends about Gulsik. So we are obviously fully live now. But the idea is really to open up that conversation and so that people have a safe space to talk about it. So basically the intent of this is that the whole idea of Gulsik is obviously we're building like DIY tools for people and access to financial planners, access to lawyers. Like it's a whole bunch of anybody related to money. You can do it on the app, but then you can also obviously reach out to people who are experts in that field. So you have like a trusted circle that you can trust to talk about money. It could be anybody to talk about money. But apart from like the solution that we are offering, we also want to open up this conversation, especially in India, right? We want to talk about like, what does money mean? What are people thinking about money and what stresses them out? Like, why is it such a taboo? We're not talking about numbers, but then even the fact that people might be in debt, but might be struggling alone, or people might have certain goals and have no idea, what do I really do about it? So the whole idea is to really open up the conversation about money. And with Valentine's Day, one of the things that we wanted to do was to talk with couples at different stages of life. So we're talking to somebody who's just started dating, and in terms of how are they managing their money? Do they even think about it? Because I've met a lot of single people who are dating or who are looking actively for partners. And this seems to be like a really big challenge for them also. So we're talking to them. We're talking to a couple who's just gotten married, who's just started planning their life and started building the life. We wanted to talk to somebody who's at your stage, people like us who've just had kids, like or very small kids, and you are kind of like, somewhere, not even in the peak of the career, not in the middle of the career, but like kind of our stage of life. And then we're talking to people who are also like more advanced, more mature, somebody who's retired as well. So just to get a perspective of how people at different stages really manage their money. So, and thank you for having this conversation with me.